So we've seen ways in earlier videos and how we can work with both items and publish items as well. So now we're going to talk about publishing tables. It takes a very similar workflow than you would do for publishing an item by calling the publish method, but it can also be a little more difficult to understand because you have to specify what are called publish parameters, and we'll get into that in a minute. But first, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start by doing from ArcGIS.gis import GIS and connect to our GIS. I'm using a profile in this case. I could also use Pro, but in this case, I have a developer account that I'm going to go ahead and use to do this demo. I'm going to grab an item that's publicly available. It's this Hawaii Emergency Shelter CSV file. And then I'm going to go ahead and clone it so it exists within my organization and I'm owner of it. And this is very important. You can't publish items that you don't own. I can just take a view of it after it's cloned. And now we know everything's complete. To get the published parameters with a CSV file, there's two ways to do it. One, you could write it out yourself, which can be very daunting. It has a lot of different pieces to it that can be complicated. And if you just want to get your data up, you can use what's called the analyze function. And this exists off the gis.content manager. So we're going to call this method gis.content.analyze and just pass in a reference to that CSV item that we've cloned. We then get back a dictionary, and we want to look at the published parameter specifically because we're going to be publishing this data out to the internet. So I'm going to assign it to the variable published parameters. I'm going to give it a unique name. By default, it calls it data or my data, depending on what version you're using. So it needs to be unique for the service name. Then we can go ahead and we have to define the location type. And the location type here is what determines what's between a spatial data set and a non-spatial data set. Now remember, we're publishing a table and I just wanted to make it so we do not have geospatial locations defined in it. So I'm going to call my published parameters and I'm going to set location type to none, and that's what's going to make it that hosted table. This will return it. We can then go ahead and interrogate and look at our dictionary that we created for the published parameters. We can see we defined our name based on our keys and some other options. You know, we didn't have to define them, but it's all defined out for us. You can see Visual Studio sort of truncates it. We get everything even for the capabilities are set for us where we can actually edit the data and everything else. We could further go ahead and adjust these published parameters if we wanted to, but I'm not going to go and do that. I'm just going to keep the defaults. We then take that dictionary and we pass it into the item.publish method. It's the first parameter on the publish method, so you don't have to go ahead and call it by name. So we just do CSV item .publish, and this will take a few seconds. You can see it took 19 seconds, and it returns back a table layer right here. We can then go ahead and take a look at this, and we see we have our publish items.tables, and we have our one table layer.